Okay, now let's move on to verb particles and other aspects of Chinese grammar. If you remember, we've covered 到，我到哪里去？给，我给你这个东西。在，它在这里。But we need to now look at these three 到，在，给 when they follow the verb rather than what we've thought up to now when they precede the verb. So let's first look at this. 他今天学到哪儿？ When or where an activity lasts until or reaches, then we put 到 after the verb. For instance, 学到哪儿？看到，读到，写到，上课上到第几课？准备到，考到，教到 which lesson? With these verbs indicating when or where an activity lasts until or reaches to, 到 follows the verb. Also, 到 follows the verb motion indicating a destination, except lie and chew. For instance, 跑到学校，走到你那里，飞到英国，回到家，搬到什么地方，开到医院，寄到英国，拿到朋友那里，送到家里。With these verbs of motion indicating a destination, 到 follows the verb, not precedes the verb. Now let's look at 给。他要送给你吗？给 meaning to, not the 给 of for, not 我给你买东西 meaning for. No, when 给 means to. For instance, 拿给你，寄给你，写给你，租 of to rent, 租给你，借给你 to lend, 还给你 to return something borrowed, 我卖给你，我送给你。The 给 comes after the verb, not before the verb, when it means to in this respect, not for. And finally, 在，他的书放在哪儿？ With certain verbs like to sit, 坐 to stand, 站 to live, 住你住在哪里？睡睡在哪里？躺 of to lie down, 放挂在墙壁上，写在哪里？出生在英国。With these verbs, 在 follows the verb, not as with other verbs in the normal position coming before the verb. Now, how do we practice these? Well, you can list some sentences and the student has to put in the appropriate 在 到 or 给. For instance, 请你拿我的朋友 or 请你拿给我的朋友。他住学校旁边 or 他住在学校旁边。这封信他要寄美国 or 他要寄到美国。Remember, 你寄到 a place, but 寄给 a person. So you get the student to fill in blanks. Let's now move on to a very key aspect of Chinese that we call resultative verb endings. 他跑累了吗？跑 is the verb indicating the action, and 累 indicates the result of the action. You take in English, he swept the floor clean. Sweep is the action. Clean indicates the result of the action, the result of his sweeping. He swept the floor clean. And Chinese has a lot of resultative verb endings. So let's look at it. Firstly, the form. There's two forms. One is the actual form, which shows the actual result attained. 这本书我已经读完了. I've already finished reading this book. And then the other form is the possible form that can or cannot be attained. 你今天能不能把这一本书读完啊？读得完 or 读不完的 indicating the positive, 不 the negative. So how can we practice this? Well, with pictures. 东西找到了没有？他吃饱了没有？ And the students answer. Although I think actually it'd be better if the resultative verb wasn't there and the student had to think which is the appropriate resultative verb. 衣服洗好了没有？ And then the possible form. 这个人看得见吗？ And obviously the answer 看不见。他走得过来吗？ Oh no, 走不过来。这辆车一个人推得动吗？好像推得不太动。So using pictures for the student to either answer the questions or to fill in the appropriate resultative verb ending is helpful. Now, to help the student, we can tell them that resultative verb endings, there are three sorts. It can either be an action verb, or it can be an adjective, or it can be a directional compound. It could be an action verb. 这一本书你看完了吗？完 an action verb. Or an adjective, 你吃饱了没？ Or 衣服洗干净了。Okay, 饱干净 both adjectives. Or directional compound, 这封信我要寄出去，出去 being the directional compound. So RVEs can either be action verbs, can be adjectives, or directional compounds. Another thing to note is that many RVEs have their own idiomatic meanings. Let's just take one. Let's take 起来. 起来, its normal meaning means up. 请站起来, please stand up. But it can also mean to start to. Oh, 下起雨来了, it's started to rain. Or someone was ill, but 已经好起来了, they've begun to get better. So it can mean start to. 起来 can also mean to surface in one's memory. Oh, what's his name? Oh, 我想起来了. Oh, I've recalled it now. It's 王明道, something like that. It could also mean, 起来 can mean it seems to be. 这个水果看起来很好吃. It seems to, it looks very nice to eat. But 起来 can also mean, finally, when in the doing of. 看起来很好吃, but 吃起来难吃. When I'm actually eating it, I find it's tasteless. So we can see 起来 and many other RVEs not only have their normal meaning, but also have various idiomatic meanings. Okay, let's move on to something else. How actions are performed. 他跑得很快. In English, in order to describe how an action is being performed, an appropriate adverb is placed after the verb. The teacher, how does she speak to her students? She speaks slowly and clearly. So in English, to turn an adjective into an adverb, we add ly. Slow becomes slowly, clear becomes clearly. Now in Chinese, many adjectives can also be used adverbally. 他跑得很快. And they're used to describe the manner of how an activity is carried out. Let's look at this. I like this drill. Look at the bottom. 老张跑步跑得非常慢，老黄跑得怎么样？老黄跑得更慢。We'll go to the bottom one. 老张说日语说得非常流利，老黄说得怎么样？ And the student then says 老黄说得更流利。 And so this gets the student using that pattern, verb 的, and then adjective, 跑得很快. But I want you to notice something. What's the difference between 跑得很快 and 跑得快? Let's have a look at this grammar clip. Hope you find it helpful. Here we are. We learn about resultative verb endings. For instance, 他跑得快, meaning he can run fast. But remember, we've already learned that this 的 is also used to describe how actions are done. 他跑得很快. What's the difference? Let me use an illustration. Firstly, how actions are done. 他跑得很快. Now for the second illustration using the resultative verb ending, I'm old, so 我跑不快. You see, I'm old, so I'm unable to run fast. 我跑不快. I hope you like that. Let's get the next one ready. And so we can see that resultative verb endings indicate the person's ability or lack of ability to do something, where this 跑得不快 indicates how or the manner in which someone does something. Let's just look at this for a minute. Students often find the problem is what's the difference between 的, and 地? So let's just look at 3 examples. 的 indicates possession. 我的书 or modification. 很大的房子. 的, as we just said, indicates how actions are being performed. 他跑得很快. Where D, although it's showing how actions are done, is used more for emphasis. 他高高兴兴地走回去. Or 我已经清清楚楚地告诉了你，你怎么还不懂? 那个 D is used with adjectives to add emphasis. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Also, adverbial use of adjectives. Let's look at these 2 sentences. 这支笔很好写 and 汉字不好写. The first one indicates that something is nice or pleasant to do. The second one, that something is difficult or not easy to do. And so the rule is, if it's a verb indicating sense, it's pleasant or unpleasant to the senses, we use 好, like for instance, 中国饭很好吃, it's pleasant to eat. Where if it's something that's difficult or easy to accomplish, for instance, 他的自行车不好骑, then 好 can be used for something that's difficult to accomplish. Now, how can we practice this? Well, again, with drawings, 筷子, and the student has to say 筷子很好用. 汉字 not easy, 不好写. English food, delicious, 很好吃. So again, if it's 好 plus a verb indicating sense, the senses, it means pleasant or unpleasant. 中国饭很好吃. If it's 好 or 难 or 容易 indicating an activity, then it means easy or difficult to accomplish. 他的自行车不好骑. Let's look at the next thing, the passive. 我的钱被他偷走了。我的钱被他偷走了。With the passive, the receiver of the action, sorry, 我的钱不是他的钱，我的钱, the receiver of the action goes at the head of the sentence, followed by the preposition 被, and then the doer of the action, 他, and then the verb that follows. And what you need to notice is that the passive 被 is used much less than in English. And it's normally, not always, but normally limited to adverse situations. 我的钱被他偷走了。我的钱被他偷走了。Now, how can we practice this? Well, you could get students to change the sentence from active into passive. You could say, 哥哥吃了我的饼干. All right, change it into the passive. 我的饼干被哥哥吃了. So remember, it's used normally with adverse situations and is used much less than in English. And actually, it's the 是的 pattern that indicates the passive more often. 这件衬衫是在上海买的. This shirt was bought in Shanghai. Now let's come on to a difficult part of speech. So let's look at another grammar clip, bar. The problem is that we don't have this in English. So let's have a look at this clip.
Bar is a difficult part of speech to understand. But note these two things about bar. When the verb is lengthened, maybe because it's a resultative verb ending, maybe because it's doubled, maybe because it's verb 在 or 给 or 到 coming after the verb, then the likelihood of using bar for the object is higher. The other thing is when the focus is particularly on the object, the likelihood of using bar is higher. And so what bar does is it, as it were, grabs the object and brings it before the verb. And so when do we use bar? It's the more these two conditions apply, the verb's lengthened, or the focus is on the object rather than the subject or anything else, then the likelihood of using bar is higher. 请你把书拿走. You see, the focus was on the book.
Okay, let's get ready for the next one. We'll go back to the PowerPoint. So let's spend a little while thinking about bar, because it doesn't come in English, and so students have problems understanding how and when to use it. 他把我的钱偷走了. Firstly, we need to notice that although bar is a preposition, and therefore comes in the normal preposition place in Chinese, the preposition bar, its object, is actually the object of the sentence, the object of the main verb. Also note that bar is different from other prepositions in that it's not translated into English. And so how does bar function? It changes the sentence from subject, verb, object to subject, bar, object, verb. Now, one key thing you must point out to your students is that bar is only used with specific persons or things, not with persons or things in general. So the sentence, 他把东西拿回去了. There is a focus, there's an understanding on what those 东西 are. They're specific 东西. They're not 东西 things in general. She took all the things back. Now, when and why use bar? Well, as I said in the clip, it's two separate yet interrelated factors. When the verb is lengthened for various reasons, and secondly, when the focus of attention is on the object, and note this, and what happened to that object, then bar is more likely to be used. So you take the sentence, 我已经把汽车卖了. The focus is on the vehicle. 我已经把汽车卖了. I've already sold the vehicle. Where if I said 我已经卖了我的汽车, there's no specific focus. It may be on the car, but it may not. Now, actually, if the focus was just on the object could be brought to the front of the sentence in the topic position. But when the verb is lengthened and the focus is on the object, the likelihood of using bar is much greater. Now, one other thing you must point out to your students, in their minds they're thinking, well, what's the difference in meaning in a sentence that uses bar and a sentence that doesn't use bar? And you must tell them it's not a difference of meaning, it's a difference of emphasis, a difference of focus. The focus is on the object and what happened to it. There's no difference in the meaning. And so how can we practice sentences? Well, you can give them an ordinary sentence and they change it into bar. For instance, 我的钥匙麻烦你放在我卧室里. They change it to 麻烦你把我的钥匙放在卧室里. Well, here's another one. 拖鞋他没脱下来. Change it to bar. 他没把拖鞋脱下来. Okay? So get them to change an ordinary sentence into a bar sentence, focusing particularly on the object and what happened to it. So let's just look at this as a summary. An ordinary situation, 我给孩子买了一点水果，孩子都吃了. I bought some fruit for the child ate it all. Basic word order, a straightforward statement with no special emphasis. Now the passive, 水果都被孩子吃了. The fruit was all eaten by the child. But using bar, the active, 我把水果给孩子了，孩子把它都吃了. The focus being on the fruit. I gave the fruit to the child ate it all. So note the difference in emphasis. The bar structure focuses on the object and what happened to it, while the passive emphasizes the agent or the doer of the action, and its use is normally restricted to adverse situations. Okay? That's bar. Let's move on to suggestion. 我们走吧. 我们走吧. When the speaker wishes to make their point in the form of a suggestion rather than a direct command, in English we use let's at the beginning of the sentence. Let's go. Let's eat. In Chinese, we use ba at the end of the sentence. Now, how can we practice this? Well, the teacher makes various suggestions to the student and asks the student to respond. For instance, 我们现在去吃饭吧, or 我们明天休息吧. And then get the student to use ba to make suggestions to the teacher. But ba also has another use indicating probability. 您是王老师吧? You're probably teacher Wang, aren't you? In English, when we want to seek confirmation of the truth of someone's statement, we do this by means of what's called a tag question. Tag questions are used when the questioner makes a statement with which he assumes, he presumes, the listener will agree. You're Mr. Smith, aren't you? I'm assuming he's going to agree that he is Mr. Smith. You're probably very busy at the moment, aren't you? I'm assuming you're going to agree with me. And Chinese does this using ba. I'm pretty certain this person must be Wang Lao Shi. So I say, 您是王老师吧? Practicing, the teacher can ask the student questions. 您是美国人吧? 您是老师吧? Obviously, some that the student has to deny. 您很忙吧? And then get the student to say things to the teacher, also using ba. Let's look at this. And what about? It's the use of ne in Chinese. 他们都要去，你呢？他们都要去，你呢？ Ne is used in two different situations. One is at the end of an abbreviated question following straight on from a statement just made, and therefore only because the person understands the context, you only need to put a little. For instance, 我喜欢跑步. You see, there's the statement. 你呢? And what about you? And so, practicing, the teacher can say, ask the student various questions. 我喜欢吃臭豆腐，你呢？我喜欢去北京玩，你呢？ And then the student can reverse roles. But ne is also used at the end of a question in the way that we, in English, will begin a sentence with well, and, but. For instance, 你为什么不去呢? Well, why aren't you going? Everyone else is. Or, 你怎么没有先告诉我的吗? But why didn't you tell me? I expected you to have told me. Okay? So that's the use of ne. Indirect object, we don't need to spend much time because it works the same as in English. 王老师不给你书吗? Doesn't teacher Wang give you a book? The indirect object precedes the direct object. He gives me a book. Mr. Smith teaches her French. 王老师教他法语. Let's move on to prepositions of conveyance. These prepositions of conveyance state the means of conveyance to get from one place to another. You know, as he went by bus or he went by bicycle. There's two prepositions of conveyance, so let's distinguish them. One is 坐 and one is 骑. 坐 is when you ride in a conveyance with seats. 坐汽车, 坐公交车, 坐火车, 坐飞机, 坐船. A conveyance with seats, you use 坐. 他要坐出租车到车站去. But if it's something that you straddle, that you ride but you straddle it, we use 骑. So you 骑 a bicycle, 骑自行车. You ride a horse, 骑马. You ride a motorbike, 骑摩托车. And so how can we practice this so the student uses the right one? Well, various pictures going from A to B. 他骑自行车到朋友家. 他坐公车到火车站. 他坐火车到学校去. And the same idea again. 他骑自行车到朋友家. 他坐出租车到学校去. 他坐公交车到火车站, etc. So the student uses the right preposition of conveyance, 坐 or 骑. All right, let's move on now. Expressing existence with 有. Remember, we've already learned 有 as to have. 我有笔, I have a pen. But 有 can also be used to express existence. 桌子上有什么东西? In English we say there is or are objects or people at a place. There is a book on the table. there are many Chinese living in America. And so the place word, 桌子上, stands in the subject position, followed by 有 and the noun. Now, how to practice? Again, pictures. 学校里有几个人？学校里有1、2、3、4、5个人。教室里有什么东西？教室里有杯子、有书、有椅子啊。邮局外边有什么？邮局外边有人、自行车、汽车啊。And then 桌子上有什么东西？有这些东西 etc etc. There is, there are something at a place word. A verb-object compound. This isn't difficult, but it's often helpful to bring them together. 他吃饭. Whereas in English we just have the verb, he eats. Chinese has to have the object, or doesn't have to, but often has the object together with the subject. 他吃饭. Here's a helpful list. 说话, to speak. 看书 to read, 读书 to study, 教书 to teach. And so often the object is said with the verb, whereas in English we just use the verb by itself. So it's helpful if you just went through this with your students sometime. Let's move on to this. This is important. 是的，我是在美国工作的。我是在美国工作的。是的 is used for emphasis, particularly talking about things in the past. Now note how we would translate this sentence. Okay, the 是 is put before the words to be stressed, here the place word, 在美国, and 的 normally comes at the end of the sentence. Not always, but normally. So here, 我是在美国工作的. We would translate this, it was in America that I worked. You thought it was in England that I worked. 不对，我是在美国工作的. It was in America that I worked. That's how we bring out the emphasis in English. Okay? Here's another one. 他是从北京来的. 他是从北京来的. You thought he came from Tianjin. 不对，他是从北京来的. It was from Beijing that he came. Emphasizing again where he came from. Now, 是 can be used without 的, also for emphasis. 是我没说清楚，不是你没听清楚. So 是 can be used without 的 for emphasis, and also 的 can be used without 是 for emphasis. 我会告诉他的. Okay? The 的 there emphasizing that I'm going to tell him. 你放心，我会告诉他的. Okay? When we practice this, again, we want the students to make up sentences emphasizing by train. 他是坐火车去的. 他是从北京来的. 他是去上海的. 他是去工作的. All these should emphasizing what happened in the past. Okay, let's move on. 多 we know means more, means many, 很多书, but it can also mean more or over. 20多本书, over 20 books, somewhere between 20 and 30 books. We'll look at the second in a minute. With 多 meaning more or more than or over, if the number ends in 1 to 9, then it means, then the pattern is number, measure, 多 noun. 2斤多苹果 means between 2 and 3 斤 of 苹果. 2斤多 number, measure, 多 noun. But if the number ends in a 0, as here, 20多本书, you note it goes number, 多 measure, noun. 20多本书. So how can we practice? Well, we can write numbers on the board and hold up our cards. Okay, if we write 30 plus, or 30多个苹果, or we can hold up pens or other things and write a number on the board. The key thing is to get the student to put the 多 in the right place. 20多本书, somewhere between 20 and 30. 2斤多苹果, somewhere between 2 and 3 jin of 苹果. But also, 多 can be used adverbally, meaning more, or 少 can be used, meaning less. 请多吃一点, please eat a little more. 请少说话, please talk less. So 多 can mean more or less, as well as many. Now let's move on to 6 verbs of motion used with 来 and 去. 上下出进回过 used with 来 and 去 indicate both motion and direction in relation to the speaker. 请进来 means come in here. Okay? Motion, come. Direction, here. And so here and there are already embedded in it. I don't have to say 请进来这儿. No. 请进来 means come in here. 请你出去. Please go out there. I don't say 请出去那儿. I say 请出去. Please go out there. Okay? So it indicates both motion, come and go, that's the 来 and the 去, and the direction, 上下进出回过. Okay? Now how can we practice this? Well, it's easy. We just say, we command the student, 出去, 进来, 回来, etc., etc., etc. But what we need to notice is that these 6 verbs of motion, okay, there was the first one, 请他马上 tell him to come up here immediately. It's not 上来这儿, 请他马上上来, tell him to come up here immediately. But when 上下进出回过 and 起 plus 来 are added to verbs, they lose the come and go. They simply indicate direction. 请他马上拿上来, please ask him to bring it up here immediately. The 来 and the 去 come and go, they're not in this meaning. 请他马上拿上来, please ask him to bring it here. In other words, it only expresses direction when 上下进出回过起 added to 来 and 去 when used after a verb. It only expresses direction. 请站起来, please stand up, not come and go in a direction. Comparing distances. We're now going to look at 3 different ways of comparing in Chinese. The first is comparing distances, but only as to whether near or far. And so A 离 B 远 or 近. Here we have 加拿大离中国非常远. Now note the difference between Chinese and English. In English we say the post office is far from the train station, where Chinese says the post office from the train station is far. Canada from China, extremely far. Okay? So let's, how do we practice that? Well, maps are easy. 英国离美国非常远. Okay, the adverb before 远, extremely. But 英国离法国很近. So using maps are very useful to practice distances between 2 places as to whether they're far or whether they're near. Another way, also this one, we can say 火车站离公园很远 but 火车站离师范大学很近 okay how far or near and using the adverb before 远 or 近 to indicate the extent 很远非常近 Now another way of comparing is whether they're same or different. A 跟 B 一样 adjective. Let's look at this sentence. 这本书跟那本书一样贵 Well, it should be a question because obviously it wouldn't be the same. 这本书跟这本书一样贵吗? And so similarity or difference is expressed by putting one of the objects, nouns, before 跟 and one after, and then 一样, and then in what way they're different. This is different from English. You take the English would be, this book is the same as that book, where Chinese says this book and that book are the same. So how can we practice this? Well, again, using things. 这本书跟这本书不一样 or 这本书跟这本书不一样贵 or something like that or 这支笔跟这支笔一样吗不一样 and so you can use things in the classroom books and pens to compare them A third way of comparing in Chinese is using A, B, adjective, number, measure, noun, and then turning it the other way around, B, 没有 A, 这么. Let's have a look at two sentences. 哥哥比弟弟大3岁. Again, it's the same difference as in English. In English, we say, this watch is more expensive than that watch, where Chinese says, this watch compared with that watch is more expensive. Okay? So, 哥哥比弟弟大3岁. Using 没有 the other way around, 你的房子没有我的房子这么干净. And so, to practice, pictures are helpful. 哥哥比弟弟大 and if you want to say how, as regards age, how much? 哥哥比弟弟大5岁. Using the A 没有 B, 这个手表没有这个手表贵. Okay? So we can practice either with things in the classroom. 这支笔没有这支那么贵. Okay? 这本书没有这本书那么好. Okay? Using things in the classroom to practice. All right, let's move on now to relative clauses. Relative clauses are often a problem for students because it's different from the English. Let's take this sentence. 正在聊天的人都是我朋友. Note in Chinese, the principle we've already talked about before, the modifying clause or noun precedes the modified. Always modifying precedes modifying. Here, the modifying clause with de added precedes modified noun. If you think in English, we have the sentence, the man who came is my brother. But in Chinese, it's, well, let me use an example in a couple of minutes. Let me use an example in a couple of minutes so you'll see how it works. What's helpful is, therefore, is to have two sentences which the student has to join up. 那位老师教韩语，他姓谢. And then the student joins it up. 教韩语的那位老师姓谢. Or let's take this one here. 那个孩子喜欢写汉字，他是我的学生。 and then the student has to change it to 喜欢写汉字的那个孩子是我的学生. Now, how can we help students understand the difference between English and Chinese relative clauses? Well, here are 3 steps for translating relative clauses, relative pronouns. Let's take the sentence, students who can write characters are very intelligent. Get the student first to search out the relative pronoun, who, which, that, assuming it's included in the sentence, it's often omitted, and the clause it heads up. So in this sentence, who can write characters. Place this clause, step 2, place this clause at the front of the sentence, who can write characters, students are very intelligent. Then finally, delete the relative pronoun who, because Chinese doesn't have relative pronouns like English does, and add de to the end of the relative clause. Can write characters to students are very intelligent. 会写字的学生都很聪明. So that will often help students, if they stick with these 3 steps, understand how to change a sentence with a relative clause in English to one that's in Chinese.